The main character in the movie Rise of the Planet of the Apes, with the heroic monomyth plot line, is the ape Caesar. Right from the beginning of the movie, when he's only 1 day old, you can see his heroic youth when his mother refuses to leave his side, and when she's eventually coaxed out of their shared cage, she goes on a rampage and destroys the research facility they are both being held in, which ends in the termination of the project to make smart apes. From a very young age, you can see that he is quite intelligent, a very fast learner, and quite strong for his age, which is shown the next day when he's able to lift a bottle of milk and feed himself with it. Caesar's call to adventure happens when his adoptive grandfather starts losing his memory and gets in a car he does not own and gets in an accident. The owner of the car gets angry and attacks Charles. Caesar immediately accepts the call to adventure and attacks his grandfather's oppressor, resulting in Caesar biting off the finger of the attacker and getting sent to an animal shelter, to an ape shelter specifically. The ape shelter itself is quite a dimly lit and womb like place where Caesar enters the belly of the whale. When Caesar first enters, he is quite a human like ape. He is a pacifist and he lets the other apes bully him around. But after several incidents with the other apes and the guards, Caesar decides that he wants to become a leader of the apes and help free them from humankind. And when he leaves the belly of the whale, he's quite a different ape. Caesar's supernatural aid comes in the form of the orangutan, who is able to sign to him. When they first speak to each other, the orangutan helps Caesar understand that apes are being taken away to Genesis and they're never being seen of or heard from again. The orangutan is also the one who helps Caesar come to the realization that without being smarter, the orangutans are never going to overcome the apes are never going to be able to overcome their own differences and escape together. Caesar's first trial is to make the apes in the shelter smart, because they are constantly fighting in between themselves and will never be able to get anything done. So Caesar one night sneaks out of the shelter and visits his adoptive father Will's place. He sneaks into Will's house and steals some of the smart potion that was created to make more apes smart. And Caesar immediately uses it on all the other apes in the shelter, and the next morning they are quite smart. Caesar's next objective, his next trial, is to get all of the apes out of the shelter and free them. To do this, he first organizes the apes, but the guards start catching on and start acting more abusive towards all the apes in general. So Caesar starts an encounter with the meanest of the guards and sprays him with a hose while he's holding a shock stick, which ends up nearly killing or maybe even killing the guard. The apes then all escape from a window in the ceiling of the shelter. Caesar's final trial happens when they have to free all the rest of the apes from the city and escape San Francisco. They overwhelm the two locations, the zoo and the Genesis facility, with sheer numbers, and by that method, they're able to limit human fatalities and ape fatalities, only killing the meanest of humans. And then they have to escape on the Golden Gate Bridge to get to the Sequoia National Park. And to do so, they have to pass a line of policemen who are all going to kill the apes. So Caesar splits up his troops, sends some of them down under the bridge, and makes others climb over the sidelines of the bridge and get the high ground. And so they're able to sneak past the police guards, and there's only a small confrontation where very few apes and very few humans are killed. Finally, Caesar's atonement with his father happens when, once they've escaped to Sequoia National Park, Will finds them, Caesar's adoptive father, and asks Caesar to abandon his fellow apes and come back home. It is also at this point that Caesar has his apotheosis, when he realizes that Caesar is home and that without the apes, he will never feel comfortable, and so he can't return home. Will accepts this, and the two, Caesar and Will, share a hug, and the father and son come together, and their argument is resolved. Thank you. Enjoy quarantine.